Let's be real. We spend hours, and I mean hours, a day scrolling, liking, and sharing. But have you ever stopped to wonder what all that time on social media is actually doing to your brain? Not just to your mood, but to the physical, chemical structure inside your head. Well, let's break it down.
You know the feeling, right? You pull out your phone for what you think will be a quick 5-minute break, and suddenly, an hour has just vanished. You close Instagram only to immediately open TikTok. So what is it? Why is it so incredibly hard to just look away? Well, here's the most important thing to understand right up front. It is not your fault. This isn't some personal failing or a simple lack of willpower. These platforms are built using something called persuasive technology. It's an entire field of design that is laser-focused on one thing: influencing human behavior. They are literally designed to find the vulnerabilities in our brain's wiring and keep us hooked. So how exactly do they do that? Well, it all starts with your brain's reward system. Honestly, the best way to think about your social media feed is like a giant digital slot machine. Except instead of winning money, the jackpot is a tiny chemical rush right inside your own skull. And the name of that chemical jackpot is dopamine. Now, you probably heard it called the pleasure chemical, but that's not quite right. It's really more of a motivation molecule. Your brain releases it in anticipation of a reward, which then makes you want to repeat whatever behavior might get you that reward again. It's the chemical of more. See, social media isn't creating some new desire out of thin air. It's hijacking a very, very old one. As Dr. Anna Lemke from Stanford points out, we are fundamentally wired to connect with other people. It's a survival instinct. Social media just figured out how to put that ancient drive on hyperspeed, 24/7. This whole process creates something scientists call a dopamine loop. It's simple, but it's brutally effective. Step 1. You take an action, like refreshing your feed. Step 2. You get an unpredictable reward, maybe a new like, maybe nothing. Step 3. Your brain gets that little hit of dopamine. And Step 4. That good feeling reinforces the action, making you want to pull the lever and refresh the feed, again and again and again. So what's the long-term cost of this? Well, think of your dopamine system like a lemon. When you wake up, it's fresh and full of juice. A simple, rewarding task, like finishing a chapter of a book, gives you a nice, satisfying squeeze of dopamine. But if you spend all morning squeezing that lemon as hard as you can with a fire hose of highly stimulating content, well, the lemon runs dry. And later, normal, everyday activities just feel kind of dull because they can't give you that same intense rush. And this constant dopamine chase leads us straight to the next problem. It's not just about our reward system. All of this constant stimulation is creating a full-blown crisis for our ability to simply focus. Just look at this number for a second, 2.5 hours. That's the average amount of time a person spends on social media every single day. That is a massive chunk of our waking lives spent in a state of constant distraction and task switching. And all that switching creates a phenomenon that scientists have a great name for: attention residue. See, every time you quickly glance at a notification and then try to go back to your work, your brain doesn't make a clean break. A piece of your attention, or residue, is left behind, still thinking about that post or that message. It seriously undermines your ability to focus on what's right in front of you. And the consequences of this are very real and very measurable. Study after study shows that heavy social media users actually perform worse on cognitive tests. They become less effective at multitasking, they show more impulsivity, and they have a much harder time just filtering out distractions from their environment. It can even mess with your memory. This feeling has become so common that it spawned a whole new term: brain rot. In fact, Oxford just named it their word of the year for 2024. It perfectly describes that feeling of mental fog and exhaustion you get after doom scrolling or zombie scrolling through an endless feed of low-quality content. Okay, so we've got our reward system hijacked and our attention span shattered. But the impact doesn't stop there. It seeps deep into our emotions, mainly through something called the social comparison trap. For our well-being, we humans need what sociologists call strong ties. You know, those 3 to 5 deep, authentic, in-person relationships. But social media excels at giving us hundreds, even thousands of weak ties. And the real danger is when we start to let that cheap, shallow connection from weak ties become a substitute for the real thing. And this whole dynamic creates a perfect recipe for a storm of negative emotions. We spend our time comparing our own messy, behind-the-scenes lives to everyone else's perfectly curated highlight reels. This fuels inadequacy, it fuels envy, and it fuels that infamous fear of missing out, or FOMO. And the great irony is that these tools, which were designed to connect us, often end up making us feel more alone than ever.
All right, we've talked about the chemicals, we've talked about emotions, but this is where the story takes a really serious turn. Because these changes aren't just temporary feelings. Over time, they can lead to physical, structural changes in your brain.
How is that even possible? It's because of a core principle of your brain called neuroplasticity. Your brain isn't fixed like a computer chip, it's more like clay. The habits you repeat over and over again literally sculpt your brain, strengthening some connections while letting others wither away.
And the research on this is becoming disturbingly clear. Heavy, compulsive social media use isn't just a bad habit. It's being linked to actual, measurable changes in brain structure, especially in the parts of your brain that handle attention, emotional control, and decision-making.
Just listen to this from a study back in 2017. Researchers found that people with high levels of Facebook addiction showed a significant reduction in gray matter in the amygdala. That's the brain's emotional control center. And the comparison they made was, frankly, chilling. The damage was similar to the kind of changes they see in the brains of cocaine addicts.
Okay, so that's the problem, and it's a big one. But here is the good news. Because of that same principle, neuroplasticity, your brain can also be rewired in a healthier direction. So let's talk about how to actually regain control and start using this technology mindfully. Here's a really simple but incredibly powerful tool you can start using today. It's the 3 W's. Before you unlock your phone to start scrolling, just pause for 1 second and ask yourself, what for, why now, and what else? That tiny pause is enough to break the cycle of mindless, compulsive behavior and put you back in the driver's seat.
And here are some other practical first steps. Turn off all non-essential notifications. You have to stop the constant interruptions. Set a time limit for these apps. Research has shown that cutting your use down to just 30 minutes a day can significantly reduce feelings of anxiety and depression. And go through your feed and just unfollow any account that consistently makes you feel bad about yourself. Curate your space.
Look, at the end of the day, the goal here isn't to get rid of technology or to demonize it. It's a part of our world. The real key is to make a conscious shift, to move away from that compulsive, mindless scrolling and toward intentional, moderate, and mindful use.
So I'll leave you with one final question to really think about. These devices in our pockets are some of the most powerful tools ever created. But you have to ask yourself, in your own life right now, is your phone serving you or are you serving it?